Stop scrolling right now, because if this message has found you at this exact moment, it is not random, it is not coincidence, and it is definitely not by accident. There is something you needed to hear, something you've been avoiding, something deep inside you already knows but hasn't fully accepted yet, and somehow, out of all the noise, all the endless scrolling, all the distractions pulling your attention in 1,000 different directions, you landed here, on these exact words, at this exact second, and that matters more than you think, because life has a strange way of placing truth in front of us when we are finally ready to receive it, even if we don't feel ready, even if we think we're just passing time, even if we believe nothing significant is happening. Something is happening right now, something subtle but powerful, something that might not shake your world instantly but will sit quietly in your mind and grow until you can't ignore it anymore, and the message is this: you are not stuck, you are not lost, and you are definitely not behind, even though it feels that way. Even though you compare your life to others and wonder why things haven't worked out for you yet, even though you replay your past mistakes and think maybe you ruined your own chances, the truth is you are exactly where you need to be to become who you are meant to become, and I know that sounds like something people say just to comfort themselves. But think about it, every delay, every rejection, every moment that made you question your worth has been shaping you in ways you don't even realize yet. You have been learning patience when you wanted speed, strength when you felt weak, clarity when everything seemed confusing, and the version of you that you are becoming is not something that could have been created without those struggles, without those silent battles you fought when nobody was watching, without those nights when you felt like giving up but didn't. And yes, maybe you didn't feel strong in those moments, maybe you felt broken, tired, and unsure, but you kept going anyway, and that matters more than any visible success, because the world only sees results, but your story is built on resilience, and right now you might be in a phase where nothing seems to be moving, where everything feels slow and uncertain. But what you don't see is that things are aligning in the background, doors are preparing to open, paths are being cleared, and the timing is being arranged in a way that will make sense later, even if it feels frustrating now. And maybe you've been asking for a sign, maybe you've been waiting for something to confirm that you're on the right path, and you keep looking outside for that answer. But what if this is the sign? What if this moment, right here, is your confirmation, not because it's magical, but because it's reminding you of something real, something you already know deep down, that you need to stop doubting yourself so much, you need to stop letting fear decide your next move, you need to stop thinking you're not ready, because the truth is, you will never feel completely ready, nobody ever does. The people you look up to, the ones who seem confident and successful, they also had moments of doubt, they also questioned themselves, but they moved forward anyway, and that's the difference, not perfection, not certainty. Just the decision to take a step even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels risky, and I know you've been holding back. Know there's something you've been wanting to do, something you keep thinking about, something that excites you but also scares you, and you keep telling yourself you'll start later, when things are clearer, when you feel more prepared, but later keeps turning into never, and that's how people stay stuck, not because they can't move forward, but because they keep waiting for the perfect moment that doesn't exist. And right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can keep scrolling, keep distracting yourself, keep telling yourself that someday you'll change things, or you can take this as a turning point, a small but powerful shift where you decide that enough is enough, that you're done waiting for permission, done waiting for confidence, done waiting for everything to line up perfectly, and instead, you choose to act, even if it's just a small step, even if it's imperfect, because movement creates clarity. Action builds confidence, and once you start, things begin to change in ways you couldn't predict. And maybe you're thinking, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? But what if it does? What if this is the moment that leads you to something bigger than you imagined? What if the only thing standing between you and that future is your hesitation, your fear of stepping into the unknown? And yes, the unknown is uncomfortable, but it's also where growth happens. It's where new opportunities exist. It's where you discover what you're truly capable of, and staying where you are might feel safe, but it also keeps you from evolving, from becoming more, from experiencing the life you keep thinking about, and you don't want to look back later and wonder what could have happened if you had just tried, if you had just believed in yourself a little more, if you had just taken that first step, because regret is heavier than failure. Failure teaches you, it shapes you, it moves you forward. But regret keeps you stuck in the past, replaying what you didn't do, and you deserve more than that. You deserve a life where you took chances, where you explored your potential, where you didn't let fear control your decisions. And I'm not saying it will be easy, it won't. There will be challenges, setbacks, moments where you feel like giving up again. But this time, you'll know better. This time, you'll remember that those moments are part of the process, not signs that you should stop. And every time you push through, every time you keep going despite the doubts, you become stronger, more resilient, more aligned with the person you're meant to be. And one day, you'll look back at this exact moment, this moment where you almost kept scrolling, and you'll realize that it was the start of something, not because everything changed instantly, but because you changed, your mindset shifted, your perspective expanded, and you decided to take control instead of staying passive. And that's where real transformation begins, not in big dramatic actions, but in small, intentional decisions that build over time. And right now, you have the chance to make one of those decisions, to choose growth over comfort, action over hesitation, belief over doubt. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real, because your journey doesn't need perfection, it needs movement, it needs commitment, it needs you to show up for yourself even when it's hard, even when it's uncertain. And if you've made it this far, if you're still reading, then maybe this message was meant for you, not in a mystical way, but in a real, grounded way, because something in you connected with these words, something in you recognized the truth in them, and that means you're ready, maybe not fully, maybe not confidently, but ready enough to begin. And that's all you need, just enough readiness to take the first step, just enough courage to move forward, just enough belief to try, and from there, everything else will follow, step by step, moment by moment, until one day, you realize that the life you were waiting for was actually built by the decisions you made starting from this very moment. So don't ignore this, don't brush it off as just another message. Take something from it, even if it's small, even if it's just a shift in how you see yourself, because sometimes, the smallest shifts lead to the biggest changes. And right now, this is your moment to start, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Exactly now, and now that you've made it past that first moment, past the instinct to scroll away, past the habit of ignoring what feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar, something inside you has already begun to shift. even if you can't fully explain it yet, because awareness always comes before change, and right now you are becoming aware of something important, something that has been quietly shaping your life without your permission, the patterns you keep repeating, the thoughts you keep believing, the limits you keep placing on yourself without even realizing it. And the truth is, most people never reach this point. Most people stay distracted, they stay busy, they keep moving without ever stopping to question why their life looks the way it does, why they feel the way they feel, why they keep ending up in the same situations over and over again. But you, in this moment, are different, because you paused, because you listened, and that pause is powerful. That pause is where clarity begins. Because when you slow down, when you stop running from your own thoughts, you start to see things for what they really are. You start to recognize that some of the things you believed about yourself were never actually true. They were just repeated so many times that they felt real. Maybe someone once told you that you weren't good enough. Or maybe life showed you situations that made you feel that way, and over time, you accepted it as part of your identity. But it's not who you are. It's just a story you've been carrying, and stories can be rewritten. But only when you decide to question them, only when you decide that you're no longer going to let your past define your future. And I know that's not easy, because your mind will try to protect you. It will try to keep you in familiar territory, even if that territory is uncomfortable, because familiar feels safe, even when it's limiting, and stepping outside of that, choosing something different, requires courage, not the loud, dramatic kind of courage you see in movies, but the quiet kind, the kind that shows up when you decide to think differently, when you decide to act differently, when you choose to respond to life in a new way instead of repeating the same reactions. And this is where things begin to change, not overnight, not instantly, but gradually, through small decisions that build momentum. And you might not notice it at first. You might feel like nothing is happening, like you're still in the same place. But change is often invisible in the beginning. It happens beneath the surface, in your mindset, in your habits, in the way you see yourself and the world around you. And then one day, you realize that you're not reacting the same way you used to, you're not holding on to the same fears, you're not doubting yourself as much, and that's when you know you've grown, not because everything around you changed, but because you did, and that internal shift is more powerful than any external result. Because once you change from the inside, your actions follow, your decisions improve, your path becomes clearer, and opportunities that were always there suddenly become visible, because you're finally in the right mindset to see them. And maybe you've been waiting for something external to change first. Maybe you've been thinking that once your circumstances improve, then you'll feel better, then you'll take action, then you'll believe in yourself. But it doesn't work that way. It starts with you. It always starts with you. Your mindset creates your reality. Your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions create your results. So if you want different results, you have to start by thinking differently, by seeing yourself differently, by believing that you are capable of more than you've allowed yourself to pursue. And I know that belief doesn't come easily, especially if you've been through situations that made you doubt yourself. But belief is not something you wait for, it's something you build. Step by step, through action, through proving to yourself that you can do things even when they feel uncomfortable, even when they feel uncertain, and every small win matters, every step forward counts, even if it doesn't seem significant at the time, because those small wins add up, they create momentum, they build confidence, and before you know it, you're no longer the same person you were when you started. You've evolved, you've grown, you've become stronger. And the things that once felt impossible no longer feel out of reach, and that's the process you're stepping into right now, whether you realize it or not, because once you become aware, once you start questioning your old patterns, you can't go back to being the same. You can try to ignore it, you can try to go back to old habits, but something will feel different, something will feel off, because you've seen a glimpse of what's possible, you've felt a shift, and that shift will keep pulling you forward. It will keep reminding you that there's more for you, more growth, more potential, more life to experience, and the only question now is, will you follow that feeling? Will you trust it enough to take the next step, even if you don't have all the answers, even if you don't know exactly where it will lead, because you don't need to see the whole path to begin, you just need to see the next step, and then the next, and then the next, and over time, those steps will create a path that is uniquely yours. A path that reflects your choices, your growth, your willingness to keep going even when it's hard, and yes, there will be moments of doubt, moments where you question if you're doing the right thing, moments where you feel like you're not making progress, but those moments are part of the journey. They don't mean you're failing, they mean you're stretching beyond your comfort zone, and that's where real growth happens. And every time you push through those moments, every time you choose to keep going despite the uncertainty, you're reinforcing a new belief. A belief that you are capable, that you are resilient, that you can handle whatever comes your way, and that belief will carry you further than any external motivation ever could, because motivation fades, but belief, once built, becomes part of who you are. It becomes your foundation, your inner strength, your quiet confidence that keeps you moving forward even when things get tough, and that's what you're building right now. In this moment, not through some big dramatic action, but through the simple act of paying attention, of being present, of choosing to reflect instead of distract yourself, and that might seem small, but it's not. It's the beginning of something powerful, something that will continue to grow as long as you nurture it, as long as you keep choosing awareness over autopilot, growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and if you continue on this path, if you keep making those small, intentional choices, you will look back one day and realize that everything started to change when you decided to stop scrolling, when you decided to listen, when you decided to take this moment seriously instead of brushing it off like everything else, because moments like this are rare, not because they don't happen often, but because most people don't recognize them when they do. Most people are too distracted, too busy, too caught up in their routines to notice when life is trying to get their attention, but you noticed. You paused, and that makes all the difference, because now you have a choice, to continue as you were, or to step into something new, something uncertain but full of potential, and deep down, you already know which one you want, you already feel it, that pull towards something more, something better, something that aligns with who you truly are. And all that's left now is to act on it, to take that next step, however small it may be, and trust that it will lead you exactly where you need to go. And as you continue forward from this point, something deeper begins to unfold within you, something that goes beyond motivation, beyond temporary inspiration, something that touches the core of how you see yourself and your life. Because the truth is, this isn't just about taking action or making changes on the surface, this is about identity, this is about who you believe you are when no one is watching, who you are in your quiet moments, in your thoughts, in your decisions. Because everything in your life reflects that identity, every result. Every habit, every pattern traces back to the version of yourself you've accepted as real, and for a long time, maybe without realizing it, you've been operating from an identity shaped by past experiences, shaped by fear, shaped by limitations that were never truly yours to begin with, and now you're standing at a point where that identity is being challenged, where a new version of you is trying to emerge. A version that is more aware, more intentional, more aligned with your true potential, but this transition, this shift, is not comfortable, because letting go of an old identity, even if it's limiting, feels like losing something familiar. It feels uncertain, it feels like stepping into a space where you don't fully recognize yourself yet, and that can be unsettling, but it's also necessary, because growth always requires leaving something behind, leaving behind old beliefs, old habits, old ways of thinking that no longer serve you, and the more you hold on to them, the harder it becomes to move forward. And maybe that's what you've been feeling lately, that internal resistance, that sense that something needs to change but you're not sure how, or you're afraid of what that change might require, and that's where most people stop, that's where most people turn back, because it's easier to stay the same than to face the unknown. But you're not most people, you've already come this far, you've already started questioning things. You've already begun to see beyond the surface, and that means you're capable of going further, of stepping into that new version of yourself even if it feels unfamiliar at first. And hey race, what you need to understand, you don't become a new person overnight, you become a new person through repeated actions, through consistent choices that align with who you want to be. Even when those choices feel uncomfortable, even when they don't match your old habits, because every time you act differently, every time you choose growth over comfort, you're reinforcing that new identity, you're proving to yourself that you are not who you used to be, and over time, that proof becomes belief, and that belief becomes your reality, and suddenly, the things that once felt difficult start to feel natural, the discipline, the confidence, the clarity, they become part of you, not something you have to force, but something you embody, and that's when everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you've become stronger, more capable, more aligned with your purpose. And speaking of purpose, maybe you've been searching for it, maybe you've been wondering what you're meant to do, what direction you should take, and it feels like a big, overwhelming question, something you're supposed to have figured out by now. But the truth is, purpose is not something you find all at once, it's something you build, it's something that reveals itself through action, through exploration, through trying different things and learning from them, and waiting. For clarity before you act will only keep you stuck, because clarity comes from movement, not from standing still, and that's why this moment matters so much, because it's an opportunity to start building that clarity, to start creating momentum, to step into the unknown with the understanding that you don't need all the answers right now, you just need the willingness to begin. And yes, there will be uncertainty. There will be moments where you question if you're on the right path, but those moments are part of the process. They don't mean you're doing something wrong, they mean you're growing, they mean you're stepping outside of what's familiar, and that's exactly where you need to be if you want to create something different in your life. And one of the biggest shifts you need to make, one of the most important realizations you need to have, is that you are responsible for your life, not in a way that blames you for everything that has happened, but in a way that empowers you to change what happens next, because as long as you believe that your life is controlled by external factors, by circumstances, by other people, you give away your power. You put yourself in a position where you're waiting for something outside of you to change before you can move forward. But when you take responsibility, when you recognize that your choices, your actions, your mindset play a role in shaping your reality, you take that power back. You realize that even if you can't control everything, you can control how you respond, how you adapt, how you move forward, and that control is enough to create change, enough to create progress, enough to build a life that aligns with who you truly are, and it starts with small decisions, small shifts in how you think, how you act, how you show up for yourself every day, and those small decisions might not feel significant in the moment, but over time, they compound, they create momentum, they lead to bigger changes, and before you know it, you're living a life that once felt out of reach, not because of one big breakthrough, but because of consistent effort, because of the willingness to keep going even when it's hard, even when it's uncertain, even when you don't see immediate results, and that's the part most people struggle with, the patience, the consistency, the trust in the process. Because we live in a world that wants everything instantly, that measures success by quick results, but real growth, real transformation, takes time, it requires persistence, it requires faith in yourself and in the journey, even when you can't see the outcome yet, and I know that can be frustrating, I know it can feel like you're putting in effort without seeing progress. But that doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means things are developing beneath the surface. It means you're building a foundation that will support everything you create in the future. And when that foundation is strong, when your mindset is aligned, when your actions are consistent, the results will come, they always do, but they come in their own time, not according to your impatience, not according to your doubts, but according to your readiness, and your readiness is something you build, something you earn through growth, through experience, through stepping up again and again even when it's difficult, and that's where you are right now, in the process of becoming ready, in the process of evolving into someone who can handle the life you're working toward, and it might not feel like it yet. But every step you take, every choice you make, is bringing you closer to that version of yourself, and one day, you'll look back and realize that this phase, this moment of uncertainty, was actually the beginning of something powerful, the beginning of a shift that changed everything, not because of some external event, but because you decided to change, you decided to grow. You decided to take responsibility for your life and move forward with intention, and that decision, that commitment to yourself, is what will define your future, more than anything else, because at the end of the day, your life is a reflection of your choices, and right now, you have the opportunity to choose differently, to choose growth, to choose courage, to choose to step into the unknown with the belief that you are capable of handling whatever comes next, and that belief, even if it's small right now, is enough to carry you forward. Enough to keep you moving, enough to turn this moment into the beginning of something greater than you've ever experienced before.